I have been sitting here for the past 3 minutes trying to figure out how to start this video. I'll never understand how YouTubers do it. Like, how do you just start a video? What am I supposed to say? I'm just gonna go for it. Hey guys, it's your girl, Corpupine. No, I hate everything about that. I'm so sorry. But it is me. It's Corpupine. And I'm the creator of an Undertale comic called NemaTale, which I promise is a lot less cringy than this YouTube video so far. If you clicked on this video and haven't immediately clicked away by my cringiness, you probably already know what it's about, but in case you don't, basically a few months ago I asked people if they had any questions about my comic NemaTale, and people certainly delivered. We're going to see how many of these questions I can get through, but before I get started, I just wanted to say that the art in the background of this video is a page from Chapter 3 of NemaTale. I also wanted to mention that I won't be saying the usernames of the people who asked me questions, but that's just because I don't want to embarrass myself by pronouncing your username incorrectly. To all the people who asked questions, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm so grateful you're reading my comic and that you cared enough to ask a question about it, and I hope you like what I have to share. So there are some questions I'm going to be answering that have really long, involved answers, some shorter ones, and some that are just for fun for me. And if you don't want to be distracted by my voice and you'd rather just watch the speed paint, feel free to turn off the sound. I promise I won't judge you. Alright, that's enough introductory stuff. Let's get into those questions. Alright, so our first question is, how old is Nema, and what is her relationship with Chara? So Nema is 19 years old. I know, she's got a pretty young face, but in later chapters we get to go into her backstory a little more, which I'm really excited about. As far as her relationship with Chara, well, I don't want to spoil too much, but Nema met Chara in much the same way that Frisk did. When Nema fell underground, Chara woke up. And now Chara's been following Nema's adventures. I would say that Chara is basically an unwilling hitchhiker, although Nema sees the two of them as friends. Our next question is, how did you come up with and design Nema? I really love her, and I like her being a kindness soul. She is one of my favorite Undertale OCs. Another fave of mine would be Faye from Spirit. Ooh, same. Faye is awesome. And I am excited to learn more about her and to see how she will develop. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you like Nema so much. So the initial idea for this story was always that Nema would have a kindness soul. I can't get too deep into how I came up with her as a character because that involves major spoilers, but I can tell you some fun things about Nema's design. So I've had this story in my brain since the beginning of 2018, and right away I knew a few things about what I wanted Nema to look like. She always had fluffy blonde hair from my earliest concept sketches, which has changed a little bit to the fluffy, dirty blonde hair that she has now. The way I work with character design is that I come up with story elements first, and then I try to incorporate those story elements into the character design. So, for instance, when Nema changes into new clothes in Toriel's house in the first chapter, she's not wearing her own clothes, she's wearing the clothes of kids who fell down before her. Because she's a pretty petite young adult, some of the clothes fit her, but the overalls are too small and too short. I had her take on a striped shirt because that ties her to the other humans who have fallen underground, even though she's not technically a child. I wanted to give her a shirt that was visually distinct from the blue-purple of Frisk and the green-yellow of Chara. I also just picked clothes that I thought would be cute. I love yellow rain boots, and overalls seemed like they would be something a child would own, but that a young adult could also wear. Nema gets to wear more clothes down the line as well that are important to the story, and I'm super excited to do more design work on those. Alright, so our next question asker says, I watched your podcast with the Determined podcast. Shout out to them for having me on, that was so much fun. And I remember you said this comic was going to be a certain amount of chapters. I can't remember, was it 10 or 12 chapters? With that in mind, does the prologue count into the chapter count? And while working on the comic, has that estimated chapter number changed at all or nah? So, that's a couple different questions. I'll try to answer them all. The final chapter count is actually going to come out to not 10 or 12, but 14 chapters. I have a super top secret Word document where I dump all my story ideas for the comic, and as I was splitting the story up, 14 was just the number that felt right for the story I wanted to tell. I've had the end of the comic planned since before I started the first page, so the chapter number has always been the same. But we'll see. It may end up being shorter than that, but I don't see it becoming longer than 14 chapters. And no, the prologue is not included in that chapter count. So it's a prologue and then 14 chapters of story. Our next question says, which characters are the hardest for you to write and portray, as well as the easiest ones, and the most fun and or interesting? So the hardest characters to write are usually the ones that I haven't written in a while. So whenever it's been a while without a certain character showing up, their dialogue is going to be harder for me, at least for the first little while. So Sans has given me a lot of trouble recently, and as I've been working on the script for Chapter 6, Mediton and Alphys have been hard as well. I usually have to read a lot of game dialogue in order to feel like I'm being true to a character's voice. That being said, the easiest character to write is probably Nema. She doesn't have a set voice I have to stay true to, other than the one I've given her. Interestingly, the second easiest character to write is Flowey. His voice is so clear to me that it's like I can hear him speaking in my head. And as far as the most fun or interesting character to write, that's just whoever is in the scene I'm working on at any given moment. Working on this comic is hard work, but it's also such a blast. Okay, next question. So, in one of your posts, I saw you were about at Chapter 5 wise ahead in the comic. Since that post, have you gotten any further ahead? Also, when you say you are further ahead, do you mean like you have sketched out the pages until that point, or they are done? So I work in batches on each chapter. I did all the sketches for Chapter 5, then all the backgrounds, and now I'm working on a second round of character sketches before I do all the character inks and colors. I would say I'm about 65% of the way done with Chapter 5 right now, so I've gotten further along, but I'm not done with Chapter 5 just yet. Alright, next question. So I think you said one of the reasons you decided to do a comic post the Queen Toriel neutral ending is that you wanted to show how even one of the happier neutral endings can still be pretty dark and sad. Besides that, is there any other reasons why you decided to start a comic post the Queen Toriel neutral ending? I'm happy to see more about this neutral ending, so it is cool to see such a good comic about it. Oh, thank you so much, I really appreciate that. As far as the reason why, that is the main reason why I picked this ending. I like it because it's the ending that I got when I first played through the game. The Queen Toriel ending seems like a very hopeful ending, but I just really wanted to explore how hopeless this situation would really be. Even if most people are still alive at this ending, they're really stuck down here for good now. All the souls that Asgore collected are gone, and now any human who falls will live among them, because Queen Toriel doesn't want any more humans killed. That's still a pretty difficult end if you ask me. Another reason I picked this ending is that I didn't want the grief of multiple monsters being dead to interfere with the other characters too much. I like this neutral ending because it puts everybody in different places than they were at the beginning of the game, and it's not explored as often because it's not as obviously dark as the murder run or some of the other endings. And the biggest reason I chose this ending is, no spoilers, but in order for the end of this comic to happen, all the characters in this neutral ending have to be around for the ending of my comic. Okay, our next question is Nema a relative of Frisk? Nope. Nema's not related to Frisk, or to Chara for that matter. The striped shirts are purely coincidental. And that's all I have to say about that. Our next question asker says, I would like a nice list of your favorite characters, both in your comic and not. Ooh, favorite characters. Okay, I'll list them in no particular order. So, Sans is up there for me because he has the potential to be really complex. I don't think I always do the best job keeping him accurate to his game version, but I think that's why I like him so much. He's always a challenge to write, and that keeps things interesting. Papyrus is also high on the list because he's just such a sweetheart. I can relate to his desire of being liked and having lots of friends. And then, of course, there's Toriel, who was my absolute favorite character the first time I played through the game. Her musical theme is still my favorite. I just think it's so beautiful. I also find Asgore really compelling. Poor guy, he's already dead at this ending, so he's barely ever in the comic, but his character arc is fascinating and really sad. I love all the characters that Toby Fox created, even the ones that are just one-offs, because each one of them is hilarious and has a little bit of heart. And, of course, I love Nema. She's got a special place in my heart because she's my baby. Also Mediton, because legs. Our next question asker says, what is Papyrus's favorite food? Well, I think... Oh, hang on. I think Papyrus wants to answer this one. Oh, cool. He says he loves the oatmeal with dino eggs in it. Breakfast foods are his favorite. He also loves Belgian waffles with strawberries. People always assume he just likes spaghetti, but that's only because it's his signature dish. Okay, our next question asker says, do you believe that Sans Undertale is Sans Deltarune? And do you believe they have a gun? Sans, do you want to take this one? Sans says he's never met this Sans Deltarune guy, but he sounds cool. Oh, and the only character in Deltarune with a gun is Ralsei. Alright, and here we are at our last question. Our question asker says, can you show us what Frisk is doing? Like if they're just at home doing a random thing? Well, sure, I can tell you about it. The thing about my mic cut out. Sorry about that. Well, I'm sure you heard me fine. Alright, well that brings us to the end of this video. I wasn't able to answer every question this time, sorry about that. If I didn't answer your question, it's probably because the question is going to be answered in the comic down the line, and I don't want to give spoilers. So, questions about where Flowey is, what monsters think of Nema, what Sans' plan is with regards to Nema, all those questions will be answered down the line, but I won't answer them here. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much for supporting this comic. We've got a roller coaster ahead of us, and I can't wait to keep telling this story with all of you. I guess that about wraps it up, but oh wait, we have one more question here. I almost missed it. Hang on. Our final question asker says, will we see Gaster in the future? Is he included in NemaTale? Gaster. I'm sorry, I don't think I know who that is.